Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai. Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Hevenu Shalom Alechem. Hevenu Shalom Alechem. Hevenu Shalom Alechem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem. Hevenu Shalom Alechem. Hevenu Shalom Alechem. Hevenu Shalom Alechem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalu Shalom. Shalu Shalom. Shalu Shalom. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall live in peace. Shalom, 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 Yerushalayim. Shalom, 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 Yerushalayim. Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
For those of you who write songs, you know that sometimes you don't know where they come from. They just seem to come from nowhere. So one day, many years ago, I'm staring out at the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the things that our God has created out there that are so awesome and so magnificent. I was reminded of a passage in Colossians that tells us that there is a great mystery that's been hid from the ages. And the bottom line is that great mystery is the Messiah in you and me. Tiny seed, we watch it blossom into life. Man born blind, we watch as God gets back his sight. An unborn child, she grows inside a mother's womb. stand amazed as I watch these mysteries. I can't explain how they ever came to be, but now I know that the greatest mystery is you and me. An aged man, we watch him struggle for his youth. A young man dreams, nurses all his life for truth. A gentle touch soon makes whole a withered hand. Just a word, he can heal a broken land. I stand amazed as I watch these mysteries. I can't explain how they ever came to be, but now I know that the greatest mystery is you and me. There's no hope. We watch him part another sea. When we're alone, he takes on flesh to bring us peace. So without him, a poor and wretched man I am. But by his grace, he lifts me up with nail-scarred hands. I stand amazed as I watch these mysteries. I can't explain how they ever came to be, but now I know that the greatest mystery is you, and I stand amazed as I watch these mysteries. I can't explain how they ever came to be, but now I know that the greatest mystery is you and me. Another night I remember thinking about the fact that my wife spends so many Sabbaths by herself. Given what I do, I'm gone a lot and I'm enjoying being with the people on Sabbath day. And so I'm sitting around thinking of something that kind of reflects the fact that she's taken care of even though I'm not there. So I wrote this little simple song called Sabbath Time, dedicated to my wife. Gave the Sabbath time for you, and I gave this time of rest for you. So we lift our tired hands to you, and we turn our weary eyes to you. And I gave this Sabbath time for you, and I gave this time of rest for you. So we lift our tired hands to you, and we turn our weary and I'll give you peace if you'll honor my day. And I gave you Sabbath time for you, and I gave this time of rest for you. So we lift our tired hands to you, and we turn our weary eyes to you.
Behold, you have come over the hills, upon the mountains. To me you have run, my beloved, you've captured my heart. With you I will go, you are my love, you are my fair one. The winter is past and the springtime has come. Dance with me, oh lover of my soul, to the song of all songs. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Honor the day that our Lord commands us to cease our toiling, and we obey, that we may know Him and learn His patient ways, keeping the Sabbath holy in all our days. So enter His temple with high thanksgiving. Worship the Lord and fill up this house with your voices ringing. Let them be heard, for we adore Him and lift our hearts in praise, keeping the Sabbath holy in all our days. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Honor the day. Honor the day that our Lord commands us to cease our toiling, and we obey. And we obey, that we may know Him and learn His patient ways, keeping the Sabbath holy in all our
תן בי את שובך, תן בי את כוח דברך, מלא אותי, מלא אותי. תן בי את שובך, תן בי את כוח דברך, מלא אותי, מלא אותי. אני יכול לפני כס אלוהים, הרומם את שמך מעל כל שם. אין כמוך אדוני באלים, מלא אותי. את חום רפואתך, מלא אותי, מלא אותי. שים בי את כל אהבתך, שים בי את חום רפואתך, מלא אותי, מלא אותי. אני יכול לפני כס אלוהים, הרומם את שמך מעל כל שם. אין כמוך אדוני באלים, דמך מטהר, דמך משחרר, דמך מטהר, דמך משחרר, דמך מטהר, דמך משחרר אותי. גדול אתה ומהולל מאוד, 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 גדול אתה ומהולל
All right. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome. Walkers will be going on vacation this afternoon. We're going to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to be leaving 4:30, 5 o'clock or so. Headed back to see family. My wife's got some work to do out there, so we'll be gone for at least 2 weeks, and then possibly 3. I'm not sure what's going to happen for Sabbath service. We can have a discussion later on about it. If you guys want to gather, whatnot, the tabernacle will be here. Just I won't. So, however you guys want to work that out, that's fine by me. Prayer requests. We need to lift up the Annies in prayer. Annette has been admitted to a VA hospital. She's been there for a few days, and they're very restricted with her, where she can't even turn on and off light switches on her own. So I have information if you guys would like to reach out to her and call her. Miss Annie had shared her room number, phone number, stuff like that. So if anybody would like to reach out to Annette, don't know how long she's going to be there, but we definitely need to lift them up in prayer. We need to lift up the Kunze family. They lost their brother this morning. He had a lung infection. They took him off the transplant list. And I was there at Jason and Jeremy's yesterday morning. And the day before, his wife made the very hard decision that on October 21st, they were going to pull the plug and then let nature take its course. So when Jeremy called me this morning to let me know that his brother had passed, I told him this is the Father's mercy. This is the Father relieving the family of having to make that decision that they would have second-guessed for the rest of their life. Because when you make the decision to pull the plug on somebody and to end their life, you will second-guess that forever. So the Father's mercy and compassion was shown. That's right. So we just need to lift them up and keep them lifted up. They're experiencing a very difficult time. I know that Marissa was on her way out here. They're scheduled to leave tomorrow. They were trying to get out here and then get to Ohio to see their brother before he passed. But Father's will be done in all things. We need to pray for one another, for the assembly and as a body as a whole. The division amongst the body is continuing and it's fierce. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. Hasatan knows his time is limited. So we need to continually lift one another up in prayer. The gossip, false witness, all the unrighteous things that are going on, I look at it. It has to start somewhere. May as well start here where we stop these things. We need to be uplifting of one another. We need to be forgiving of one another. I'm going to be speaking about all this stuff this afternoon, or after we read the parasha. But we just need to continue to pray for one another. It's a spiritual battle that's manifesting itself into the flesh. So we have to strengthen one another. We got to be strong. We need to pray that we can learn to love and forgive one another. That's sometimes the hardest thing is giving forgiveness. You got to remember that Yeshua offered forgiveness without requiring anything from us. We're commanded to love and forgive one another without fail and without prejudice. So something to think about as we go through these next couple of weeks, whether we gather here or whether we don't. We need to pray for healing for the body. It's been a very trying time all across the nation, across the world, with division in the body that's been going on. Seeing multiple group after group after group after group splitting and splitting and splitting and splitting, and it's over things that we really should be splitting over. We need, especially with where we're headed, this is the time that we need one another more than ever. And if we continue to split, we're going to be left all alone, and then we're going to be subject to what's coming at us. Everybody that's here already knows about my Shema disclaimer. Some of us will rise and recite the Shema. We'll lift our hands. If you do not feel comfortable, do not want to do it, we're not asking you to. We're not going to judge you. So whoever would like to join us in the Shema, we'll recite the Shema first in Hebrew and then in English.
Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Elohim, Malchuto Le'olam Vayed, V'yavta Yahweh Elohecha, V'kol levavecha, u'v'kol nafshecha, u'v'kol modecha, v'hayu ha'darim ha'eleh, asher ki metzavecha hayom alavecha, v'shinata levanecha, v'dibarta v'shtibnecha v'techa, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shakvecha u'v'mecha, u'v'shartarcha le'oyedecha, v'hayu letuvot v'nenecha, u'k'tata v'suzot v'techa, u'v'yisharem Amen.
And now in English, hear, O Israel, Yah is our Elohim, Yah is one. And you shall love Yah, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children. And you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And now you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yah. Deuteronomy 6:4-9 and Leviticus 19:18 is where we get that. Today we're parashah is Noach, so we're going to be starting in Genesis chapter 6 verse 9, and we're going to be reading through Genesis 11:32. I've done enough right now. Let's see how far I get. So Genesis chapter 6, starting in verse 9. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generation. Noah walked with Elohim. And Noah brought forth 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth and saw that it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And see, I'm going to destroy them from the earth. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover the inside and the outside with a covering. And this is how you are to make it. The length of the ark is 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. Make a window for the ark, and complete it to a cubit from above. And set the door of the ark on its side. Make it with lower, second, and third decks. And see, I myself am bringing floodwaters onto the earth, to destroy all flesh in which is the breath of life from under the heavens. All that is on the earth is to die. And I shall establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you and your sons, and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And all of the living of all flesh, 2 of each, you are to bring into the ark, to keep them alive with you, a male and a female. Of the birds after their kind, and of the cattle after their kind, and of all the creeping creatures of the ground after their kind, 2 of each are to come to you, to keep them alive. As for you, take of all the food that is eaten, and gather it to yourself, and it shall be food for you and for them. And Noah did according to all that Elohim commanded him, so he did. Somebody would like to read chapter 7.
I will. And Yahuwah said to Noah, Come into the ark, you and all the household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Of all the clean beasts, take with you 7 pairs, a male and a female, and of the beasts that are unclean too, a male and a female. Of the birds of the heavens, 7 pairs, male and female, to keep offspring alive on the face of the earth. For after 7 more days I am sending rain on the earth, 40 days and 40 nights, and I shall wipe from the face of the earth all that stand that I have created. And Noah did according to all that Yahuwah commanded him. So Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife's sons and his wife went back into the ark because of the waters of the flood. And all the clean beasts of the beasts that are unclean, and the birds that creep on the earth, 2 by 2, they went into the ark, male and female, and Elohim commanded Noah. And it came to be after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd new moon, on the 17th day of the new moon, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of the heavens were opened. Rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And on that same day, Noah and Shem, Ham, and Japheth, sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and 3 wives of his sons with them, went into the ark. And they, and every life form after its kind, every beast after its kind, and every creeping creature that creeps on the earth after its kind, every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark to Noah, 2 by 2 of all flesh, which is breath of life. Those going in, male and female, all flesh went into as Elohim commanded them. And Yahuwah shut him in. A flood was on the earth 40 days, and the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose above the earth. The waters were mighty and greatly increasing on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters, and the waters were exceedingly mighty on the earth, and all the high mountains under the heavens were covered. The waters became mighty 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died, creeping creatures on the earth, birds, cattle, beasts, every swarming creature that swarms the earth, and all mankind. All whose nostrils was the breath of life, the spirit of life, and all that was on dry land died. So he wiped out all that stand which is on the face of the ground, both man and beast, and the bird of heaven, and they were wiped out from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those who were with him in the ark. And the waters were mighty on the earth 150 days.
Who would like to read chapter 8?
Got it. Then Elohim remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the animals that were with him in the ark. And Elohim made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. The fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were also stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters receded continually from the earth. At the end of the 150 days, the waters decreased. Then the ark rested in the seventh month, the seventh day of the month, on the mountain of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains were seen. So it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. Then he sent out a raven, which kept going to and fro until the waters had dried up from the earth. He also sent out from himself a dove to see if the waters had receded from the face. He also sent out from himself a dove to see if the waters had receded from the face of the ground. But the dove found no resting place for the sole of the foot, and she returned into the ark to him, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. So he put out his hand and took her and drew her into the ark himself. And he waited yet another 7 days, and again he sent the dove out from the ark. Then the dove came to him in the evening, and behold, a freshly plucked olive leaf was in her mouth. And Noah knew that the waters had receded from the earth. So he waited yet another 7 days and sent out the dove, which did not return again to him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, that the waters were dried up from the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and indeed the surface of the ground was dry. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dried. Then Elohim spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing of all flesh that is with you, birds and cattle and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, so that they may abound on the earth, and be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every animal, every creeping thing, every bird, and whatever creeps on the earth according to their families went out of the ark. Then Noah built an altar to Yahweh, and took of every clean animal, and of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And Yahweh smelled a soothing aroma. Then Yahweh said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for the man's sake, although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done. While the earth remains, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease.
Thank you. Chapter 9. Would like to read?
I'll read that. Okay. And Elohim blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Be fruitful and increase, and fill the earth. And the fear of you, and the dread of you, is on every beast of the earth, and on every bird of the heavens, and on all that creeps on the ground, and on all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they have been given. Every creeping creature that lives is food for you. I have given you all as I give the green plants. but do not eat flesh with its life, its blood, but only your blood for your lives I require. From the hand of every beast I require it, and from the hand of man. From the hand of every man's brother I require the life of a man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood is shed. For in the image of Elohim has he made man. As for you, be fruitful and increase, bring forth teemly in the earth and increase it. And Elohim spoke to Noah and to his sons, saying, And I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and with every living being that is with you, of the birds, of the cattle, of every beast of the earth with you, of all that go out of the ark, every beast of the earth. And I shall establish my covenant with you, and never again is all flesh cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again is there a flood to destroy the earth. And Elohim said, This is a sign of the covenant which I make between me and you, and every living being that is with you, for all generations to come. I shall set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And it shall be when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud. And I shall remember my covenant, which is between me and you, and every living being of all flesh. And never again let the waters become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the rainbow shall be in the cloud, and I shall see it, and remember the everlasting covenant between Elohim and every living being of all flesh that is on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth. And the sons of Noah who went out from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and all the earth was overspread from them. And Noah, a man of the soil, began and planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunk and became uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside. So Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, but their faces were turned away and did not see their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and he knew that his younger son what his younger son had done to him, and said, Cursed is Canaan, let him become a servant of servants to his brothers. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh, the Elohim of Shem, and let Canaan become his servant. Let Elohim enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan become his servant. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years. So all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died.
Thank you. Chapter 10. This is the genealogy of the sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai and Yawan, and Tubal and Meshach, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphah, and Togarmah. And the sons of Yawan, Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dodanim. And from these the coastlands of the people of the nations were separated into their lands, every one according to his language, according to their clans, into their nations. From the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mithraim, and Put, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush brought forth Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before Yahweh. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yahweh. In the beginning of his reign was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Kalna in the lands of Shinar. From the land he went to Ashur and built Nineveh, and Rebothir and Keilah, and Rezin between Nineveh and Keilah, the great city. And Mithraim brought forth Ludium and Anamim and Lehabim and Naptohim and Parashim and Kashuhim, from who came forth the Philistines and the Copperim. And Canaan brought forth Sidon, the firstborn, and Heth, and the Ebusite, and the Amorite, and the Gereshite, and the Hivite, and the Erechite, and the Sinite, and the Aradite, and the Sesmerite, and the Hamathite. And afterward the clans of the Canaanites were spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as you go toward Gerar, as far as Azah, as you go toward Sodom and Amorah, and Adam and Seboim, as far as Lasha. These were the sons of Ham, according to their clans, according to their languages, in their lands, in their nations. And also to Shem, the father of the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, children were born. The sons of Shem, Eliam, and Ashur, and Arpachshad, and Lud, and Aram. And the sons of Aram, Uz, and Hul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arpachshad brought forth Shelah, and Shelah brought forth Eber. And Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for his days on the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Yoktan. And Yoktan brought forth Almadad, and Shelah, and Hatzemeroth, and Yerah, and Hadamorah, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Abal, and Abimadel, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Yobab. And these were the sons of Yoktan. And their dwelling place was from Mesha, as you go towards Sephir, a mountain of the east. These were the sons of Shem, according to their clans, according to their languages, in their lands, according to their nations. These were the clans, the sons of Noah, according to their generations, in their nations. And from these the nations were divided on the earth after the flood. Chapter 11.
Now the whole earth had one language and one speech, and it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks, let us make bricks, and bake them thoroughly. They had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. But Jehovah came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And Jehovah said, Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now nothing they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down there. Let us go down, and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So Jehovah scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because there Jehovah confused the language of all the earth. And from there Jehovah scattered them abroad over the face of all the earth. This is the genealogy of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. After he begot Arphaxad, Shem lived 500 years and begot sons and daughters. Arphaxad lived 35 years and begot Salah. After he begot Salah, Arphaxad lived 403 years and begot sons and daughters. Salah lived 30 years and begot Eber. After he begot Eber, Salah lived 403 years and begot sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and begot Peleg. After he begot Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and begot sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and begot Reu. After he begot Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and begot sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and begot Serug. After he begot Serug, Reu lived 207 years and begot sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years and begot Nahor. After he begot Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and begot sons and daughters. Nahor lived 29 years and begot Terah. After he begot Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and begot sons and daughters. Now Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. This is the genealogy of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father uttered Terah in his native land, in Ur of the Chaldeans. Then Abram and Nahor took wives, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren, she had no child. Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. So the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran.
Hallelujah. Amen. That concludes the Torah portion. For the half Torah, we're going to be reading Isaiah 53, 54, and then verses 1 through 5 and 55. Isaiah 53. Go ahead, bro.
Who has believed our report, and to whom was the arm of Yahweh revealed? For he grew up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or splendor that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should desire him. Despised and rejected by men, a man of pains and knowing sickness, and as one from whom the face is hidden, being despised, we did not consider him. Truly, he has borne our sicknesses and carried our pains, yet we reckoned him smitten, stricken by Elohim and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our crookedness. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. We all like sheep went astray, each one of us has turned to his own way, and Yahweh has laid on him the crookedness of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, but he did not open his mouth. He was laid as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shearers is silent, he did not open his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and as for his generation, who considered that he shall be cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was stricken. He was appointed as a burial. He was appointed a burial site with the wrong, and with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was deceit in his mouth. But Yahweh was pleased to crush him. He laid sickness on him, and that when he made himself an offering for guilt, he would see a seed and would prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh prosper in his hand. He would see the result of the suffering of his life and be satisfied. Though through his knowledge, my righteous servant makes many righteous, and he bears their crookedness. Therefore I give him a portion among the great, and he divides the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his being unto death, and he was counted with the transgressors, and bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
Thank you, bro. Isaiah 54.
Sing, O barren one who did not bear shall break forth to the right and to the left, and your seed inherit the nations and make the deserted cities inhabited. Do not fear, for you shall not be put to shame, nor hurt, you shall not be humiliated. For the shame of your youth you shall forget, and not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore. For your Maker is your husband, Yehovah of hosts is his name, and the set apart one of Israel is your Redeemer. He is called the Elohim of all the earth. For Yehovah has called you like a woman, forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a wife of youth when you were refused, declares your Elohim. For a little while I have forsaken you, but with great compassion I shall gather you. In an overflow of wrath I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting loving commitment I shall have compassion on you, said Yehovah your Redeemer. For this is the waters of Noah to me, in that I have sworn that the waters of Noah would never again cover the earth. So have I sworn not to be wroth with you, nor to rebuke you. For though the mountains be removed and the hills be shaken, my loving commitment is not removed from you, nor is my covenant of peace shaken, said Yehovah, who has compassion on you. O you afflicted one, tossed with storm and not comforted. See, I am setting your stones in antimony, and shall lay your foundations with sapphires, and shall make your battlements of rubies, your gates of crystal, and all your walls of precious stones, and all your children taught by Yehovah, and the peace of your children great. In righteousness you shall be established, far from oppression, for you shall not fear, and far from ruin, for it does not come near you. See, they shall indeed assemble, and not because of me. Whoever shall assemble against you falls for your sake. See, I myself have created the blacksmith, who blows the coals of the fire, who brings forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the inheritance of the servants of Yehovah, and their righteousness for me.
55. O everyone who thirsts comes to the waters, and you who have no silver, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without silver and without price. Why do you weigh out silver for what is not bread, and your labor for what does not satisfy? Listen to me, and eat what is good, and let your being delight in itself in fatness. Incline your ear, and come to me. Hear, so that your being lives, and let me make an everlasting covenant with you, the trustworthy, loving commitments of David. See, I've given him as a witness to the people, a leader and a commander for the people. See, a nation you do not know shall call, and a nation who does not know you run to you, because Yehovah your Elohim, and the set apart one of Israel, for he has adorned you. Hallelujah and amen. Brit Hadashah, we're going to read Luke chapter 1 to start. If anybody would like to take on that reading, it's a longer one. You can split it up if you want.
Since many have indeed taken in hand to set in order an account of the matters completely confirmed among us, as those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the word delivered them to us. It seemed good to me as well, having followed up all these matters exactly from the beginning, to write to you an orderly account, most excellent Theophilus, that you might know that the certainty of the words which you were taught. There was in the days of Herodes, the sovereign of Yehuda, a certain priest named Zechariah, of the division of Abiah, and his wife was of the daughters of Amoron, and her name was Elishabeth. And they were both righteous before Elohim, blamelessly walking in all the commands and righteousness of Yahweh. And they had no child, because... Can you guys help me with his name?
Elisheba.
Was barren, or her name. Sorry, I said his name wrong. Zechariah? No, okay, sorry. I'll keep going. And they had no child because Elisheba was barren, and both were advanced in years. And it came to be that while he was serving as priest before Elohim in the order of his division, according to the institute of the priesthood, he was chosen by Lot to burn incense when he went into the dwelling standing on the right side of the slaughter place of incense. And when Zechariah saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. And the messenger said to him, Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer is heard, and your wife Elisheba shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Yahweh. And you shall have joy and gladness, and many shall rejoice at his birth. For he shall be great before Yah, and shall drink no wine and strong drink at all. And he shall be filled with the set-apart spirit, and even from his mother's womb. And he shall turn many of the children of Israel to Yah their Elohim. And he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Eliyahu, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the insight of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for Yah. And Zechariah said to the messenger, By what shall I know this? For I am old, and my wife advanced in years. And the messenger answering said to him, I am Gabriel, who stands in the presence of Elohim, and was sent to speak to you and announce to you this good news. But see, you shall be silent and unable to speak until the day this takes place, because you did not believe my words, which shall be filled in their appointed time. And the people waited for Zechariah and marveled at his delay in the dwelling place. And when he came out, he was unable to speak to them. And they recognized that he had seen a vision in the dwelling place, for he was beckoning to them and remained dumb. And it came to be, as soon as the days of his service were completed, he went away to his house. And after those days, his wife Elisheba conceived. And she hid herself 5 months, saying, Yah has done this for me in the days when he looked upon me to take away my reproach among men. And in the 6th month, the messenger Gabriel was sent by Elohim to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a maiden engaged to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. And the maiden's name was Miriam? And the messenger concerning coming to her said, Greetings, favored one, the master is with you. Blessed are you among women. But she was greatly disturbed at his word, and wondered what kind of greeting this was. And the messenger said to her, Do not be afraid, Miriam, for you have found favor with Elohim. And see, you shall conceive in your womb, and you shall give birth to a son, and call his name Yahshua. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Most High. And Yah Elohim shall give him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Yaakov forever, and there shall be no end to his reign. And Miriam said to the messenger, How shall this be, since I do not know a man? And the messenger answering said to her, The set-apart spirit shall come upon you, and the power of the Most High shall overshadow you. And for that reason the set-apart one born of you shall be called Son of Elohim. And see, Elisheba, your relative, she has also conceived a son in her old age. And this is now the 6th month to her who was called barren, because with Elohim no matter shall be impossible. And Miriam said, See, the female servant of Yah, let it be to me according to your word. And the messenger went away from her. And Miriam arose in those days and went into the hill country with haste to a city of Yehuda, and entered into the house of Zechariah and greeted Elisheba. And it came to be, when Elisheba heard the greeting of Miriam, that the baby leaped in her womb, and Elisheba was filled with the set-apart spirit. And she called out with a loud voice and said, Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And who am I, that the mother of my master should come to me? For look, when the sound of your greeting came to my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy. Blessed is she who believed, for that which Yah has said to her shall be accomplished. And Miriam said, My being makes Yah great, and my spirit has rejoiced in Elohim my Savior, because he looked on the humiliation of his female servant. For look, from now on all generations shall call me blessed. For he who is mighty has done wonders for me, and set apart his name. And his compassion is from generation to generation to those who fear him. He did mightily with his arm. He scattered the proud in the thought of their hearts. He brought down rulers from their thrones and exalted the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good items, and the rich he has sent away empty. He sustained Israel, his servant, in remembrance of his compassion, as he spoke to our fathers, to Abraham, and to his seed forever. And Miriam stayed with her about 3 months and returned to her home. And the time was filled for Elisheba to give birth, and she bore a son. And her neighbors and relatives heard how Yah had showed great compassion to her, and they rejoiced with her. And it came to be on the 8th day that they came to circumcise the child, and they were calling him by the name of his father Zechariah. And his mother answering said, Not so, but he shall be called Yohanan. And they said to her, There is no one among your relatives who is called by this name. Then they motioned to his father what he would like him to be called. And having asked for a writing tablet, he wrote, saying, Yohanan is his name. They all marveled. And at once his mouth was opened and his tongue loose, and he was speaking, praising Elohim. And fear came on all those dwelling around them. And all these matters were spoken of in the hill country of Yehudah. And all who heard them kept them in their hearts, saying, What then shall this child be? And the hand of Yah was with him. And Zechariah, his father, was filled with the set-apart spirit, and prophesied, saying, Blessed be Yah, Elohim of Israel, for he did look upon and worked redemption for his people. And he raised up a horn of deliverance for us in the house of his servant David, as he spoke by the mouth of his set-apart prophets from of old, deliverance from our enemies and from the hand of all those hating us, to show compassion toward our fathers, and to remember his set-apart covenant, an oath which he swore to our father Abraham, to give us, being delivered from the hand of our enemies, to serve him without fear, and set-apartness and righteousness before him all the days of our life. And you, child, shall be called prophet of the Most High, for you shall go before the face of Yah to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of deliverance to his people by the forgiveness of their sins, through the tender compassion of our Elohim, with which the day break from on high has looked upon us, to give light to those who sit in darkness and the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. And the child grew and became strong in spirit, and was in the desert until the day of showing himself openly to Yisrael.
Thank you. The next one is in 1 Peter 3, verses 8 through 22.
Finally, all of you be of one mind, having compassion for one another. Love as brothers, be tender-hearted, courteous, not returning evil for evil or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, blessing, knowing that you were called to this, that you may inherit a blessing. For he who would love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil, and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of Yahweh are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their prayers. The face of Yahweh is against those who do evil. And who is he who will harm you if you become followers of what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, you are blessed, and do not be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. But sanctify Yahweh in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you, with meekness and fear, having a good conscience, that when they defame you as evildoers, those who revile your good conduct, Christ may be ashamed. For it is better, if it is the will of Elohim, to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to Elohim, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive by the Spirit. By whom also he went and preached to the spirits in prison, who formerly were disobedient, when once the divine long-suffering waited in the days of God, while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is, 8 souls, were saved through water. There is also an antitype which now saves us, baptism, not the removal of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience toward Elohim, through the resurrection of Yahshua, who has gone into heaven and is at the right hand of Elohim. Angels and authorities and powers having been made subject to.
Hallelujah. Thank you. The last one is in 2 Peter 2, verses 4 through 10.
For if Elohim did not spare the messengers who sinned, but sent them to Tartarus and delivered them into chains of darkness to be kept for judgment, and did not spare the world of old, but preserved Noah, a proclaimer of righteousness, and 7 others, bringing in the flood on the world of the wicked, and having reduced to ashes the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and condemned them to destruction, having made them an example to those who afterward would live wickedly, and rescued righteous Lot, who was oppressed with the indecent behavior of the lawless, for day after day that righteous man dwelling among them tortured his righteous being by seeing and hearing their lawless works. Then Yahweh knows how to rescue the reverent ones from trial, and to keep the unrighteous unto the day of judgment to be punished. And most of all, those walking after the flesh in filthy lust, despising authority, bold, headstrong, speaking evil of esteemed ones.
Go ahead and finish reading through 11. We'll just finish that sentence.
Whereas messengers who are greater in strength and power do not bring a slanderous accusation against them before the master.
Hallelujah. Thank you. So I've got just a brief message today in regards to Noach. Noach's obedience equaled righteousness. I think that is something that we need to take into account. Righteousness in Genesis 6:8. But Noah found favor in the eyes of Yah. And in Genesis 7:1-2, and Yah said to Noah, come into the ark, you and your household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. Out of an entire world of people, Noah was found righteous. And through that righteousness, his wife, his sons, and his sons' wives were all spared. I think of favor and grace. Hebrew word 2580, kain or chen. Graciousness, that is, subjected to kindness, favor, objectivity, favor, grace, pleasant, precious, well-favored. Righteousness in Genesis 7:1-2 is Hebrew word 6662, tzedek or tzaddik. It's just or lawful, making a righteous man. So lawful, when we think of lawful and righteousness, lawful is keeping the law, right? Keeping the commands, keeping the instructions. Obedience, Genesis 6:22. And Noah did according to all that Elohim commanded him, so he did. Noah kept the commands of Yah, which accounted for his righteousness. If we want to be accounted as righteous, we are to keep the commands of Yah. Luke 1:5. There was in the days of Herodes, the sovereign of Yehuda, a certain priest named Zechariah, and of the division of Abiyah, and his wife was of the daughters of Aharon, and her name was Elisheba. And they were both righteous before Elohim, blamelessly walking in the commands and righteousness of Yahweh. So both Zechariah and his wife were righteous. His wife was of the line of Aaron, of the priesthood line. They gave birth to Yohanan ben Zechariah, John the Baptist. His parents were found righteous for walking in the commands of Yah. He is of the tribe of Levi, of the priesthood, and both his parents, his father was a priest at the time. And when we look at the information that was given about his father, we can deduce about the time when Yeshua was born. When we go back and look at the temple service, and we find which week and which month that Zechariah served, and we can then logically deduce about the time that Yeshua was born, because it states when Yohanan was born. So information there for those that seek the truth, they're able to find it. He was found righteous for the obeying of the commands. There's a common theme here. Faith and righteousness. Faith, used in the Brit Hadashah, is G4102. Pitsis. It's persuasion, that is. Credence, moral conviction of religious truth or truthfulness of God or a religious teacher, especially reliance upon Christ for salvation. Abstractly constancy in such profession. By extension, the system of religious gospel, truth itself. Here's where it really kicks in for me. Belief and believe and faith, they're synonymous. They're one and the same. So by belief, our belief is our faith, and our faith is our belief. So faith and belief and righteousness and lawfulness and justness go hand in hand. Faith and obedience, our belief and our Shema, to hear and obey, obedience, go hand in hand. Just as obedience and righteousness, Shema, and lawfulness and justfulness go hand in hand. Are we starting to see a correlation of how all three of these actions they go hand in hand? We see different verbiage in the Tanakh and the Brit Hadashah, but when we start to dig down to what the root words are, we see quite a bit of similarity in them. Hebrews chapter 11. By faith Abel offered a more excellent sacrifice, by which he obtained the witness that he was righteous. This is the first couple's son. By faith Hanok was translated not to see death, as he pleased Elohim. By faith Abraham obeyed and was found righteous. Obedience. By belief Sarah was able to conceive past the normal age and was deemed trustworthy. By faith Yitzhak and Jacob and Esau and the sons of Jacob. So by faith these men were righteous. By faith Joseph made mention of the outgoing in the Exodus to the children of Israel. By belief Moshe was hidden for 3 months by his parents. By faith Moshe chose affliction over a position of authority. Moshe was of Pharaoh's house and was in line to be in a leadership position, and he chose affliction. He chose that over a position of authority. By belief, the children of Israel made the Exodus journey through the Red Sea. Gideon, Barak, Shimshon, Gippah, David, Samuel, and the prophets. Through belief, all of these overcame different things. Rains, they closed lions' mouths. They quenched the power of fire. They escaped the sword. They became strong and made foreign enemies flee. We find all of this in Hebrews chapter 11. All these are examples of what we need to live by. We need to live by obedience. Obedience to the Father first and foremost. We need to have faith and trust in what He says is true. His word needs to be our foundation, because the word is truth. They walked out their faith, their belief, in obedience to the commands of Yah, and they were found righteous. We should do the same. Their obedience resulted in righteousness, just as it did with Noah. Deuteronomy 30, chapter 2. And shall turn back to Yah your Elohim, and obey His voice, according to all that I, this is Moshe speaking, command you today with all your heart and with all your being, you and your children. and shall turn back to your Elohim. Repent. Turn back and obey. Shema, to hear and obey. Deuteronomy 30, verse 20. To love Yah your Elohim and to obey his voice and cling to him. For he is your life and the length of your days. To dwell in the land with Yah, swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them. Dr. David Jones of Hebraic International Ministries posted this on his Noach study, and I found it intriguing. So, do we desire to serve, which is selfless and righteous, or do we desire to be served, which is selfish and unrighteous? Do we wish to help, but only when we want to do it? Or do we wish to desire where and when help is needed? Do we serve only when it's convenient? Or do we want to help, but only in an advisory role? In which role did Messiah Yahshua come? Messiah came as a humble servant. He called us to be, all of us, to be servants. He called us to be servants to one another. He said none of us are greater than the other. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all equal. Lip service. There's a lot of lip service going around in the movement right now. A lot of people saying they're keeping the commands and believing that the scriptures are true and trustworthy, claiming that they're following the way, but the fruit that they're providing does not match up. It is sad. It is heartbreaking to see so many people that are Torah observant pushing other Torah observant people away. We've forgotten what our mission is. Our mission is to be servants, not to be served. The fruit, which is the works, our fruit is our works. This resembles that of the Pharisees, in my opinion, what I'm seeing today in Yeshua's day. A lot of people are saying, do as I say, just don't do as I do. Our faith, our obedience. In particular, our obedience to Yeshua's command should be followed out and followed out carefully. He was our example. We should be walking in his footsteps. He was humble. He was humble enough to serve his disciples. He was humble enough to wash their feet. We should be doing the same with one another. As we've seen, examples given previously, Noah, all of them, none of them provided lip service. The Father gave a command, they carried out the command, they obeyed it. Point blank, period. They had obedience. Their obedience resulted in righteousness. Their actions were a direct reflection of their obedience. Our actions, that's our fruit. That's what people see. That's what people are going to know you by. If their actions for which they were found righteous, it wasn't for the lip service, it was for their action. It wasn't, okay, I'm going to keep the command, just as we've seen in the biblical account we'll be going over in Exodus, that children of Israel, Moshe, stand between us and him. We will do whatever he says. We just do not want to hear that voice anymore. We hear and we obey. And then that's forgotten. And then, okay, give us one more chance. We'll hear and obey. Well, here we are after Messiah. We still haven't heard. We're still not obeying. We still have a lot of room to grow. We still have a lot of things to do. Our mission is not yet complete. The harvest is not yet full. Messiah Yeshua has not yet returned. So we still have an opportunity to correct this. It was their action for which they were found righteous. Righteousness, tzaddik, just, lawfulness. I can't reinforce and restate this enough. Righteous, sadak, is a root word, to be made right morally, to cleanse, clear self, to justify, righteous, identifying as righteousness itself. What do your actions reflect? Do they reflect pride and promotion of yourself, which selfishness versus not selfish, stinginess versus not cheerful giving? What about me and not what about the kingdom or the community? Or is your pride and promotion of Yah and Yeshua in the Word? We live in a selfish culture. In Western civilization, especially in America, we're jealous. We're envious. We're lavish. We're self-indulgent. We're selfish selfish. It's a me first generation. It's what about me? What about my feelings? All of this stuff instead of what about somebody else. We're self-focused and self-centered. We're stingy. We're insecure. And there's a lot of Lashon Hara that goes on in this culture. All of these things are widely known. All of these things are widely accepted. And all of these things, many other countries reject us for. Many other countries despise us because of this. We're one of the wealthiest countries on the planet, yet we're not doing anything to help countries that are in need. This is a reflection of where we're at. We're at the end of the dynasty. We're at the end of the 250-year reign where dynasties typically can succeed. This country is about to fall. Yah's judgment is about to be cast. Unfortunately, all these self-promoting qualities are within the body of Messiah, and dare I say it, even some within this assembly. It's heartbreaking. But we have time to fix it. Righteousness is not found in any of the qualities that were on the previous screen. There's no righteousness in any of that. Righteousness, obedience, and faith. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Promotion of Yah. Promotion in all of our actions. Selfless in everything that we do. Selfless in our thoughts. Selfless in our desires. Selfless in what I say are our possessions, but let's just be honest here. They're his possessions. We're just stewards of them. If we claim to be of Yah, he has given us stewardship of what he's given to us. Obedience to all his commands and instructions, even the ones that are difficult to comprehend. We got people that are new to the walk that can't understand some of them, and that's okay. We were all there at one time. It's a learning process. The Father met us where we're at. He didn't expect we know everything right away. He's led us along the path as we've gone. Even the ones that this feminist society disapproves of. Even the ones that we may not agree with due to our lack of understanding. There are things that are within the Bible that are difficult to comprehend and they're difficult to stomach, but let's be honest, they're in there. They're in there for a reason. If we say that the Bible is our foundation, if we say the Scriptures are a way of life, and that we are to believe from Genesis to Revelation, let us do that. We need to take a close look in the mirror to see if the reflection that you see is your own or if the reflection is of Yeshua. Because if you're seeing your own reflection, then something's got to change, because you're supposed to be a reflection, a light to the nations. You're supposed to be a representation of the King and of the kingdom. Are your actions lining up with Scripture? Is your visible fruit, is it good? Are you being a light to the nations, like I said? Or are you merely performing lip service? Do you have the desire to be served or to serve? Are you ready to serve when and wherever needed, no matter what? Or are you only willing to serve when it's convenient for you and on your own terms? We have to look in the mirror. Each one of us. We have to do some soul searching. We need to remind ourselves, and we need our brothers and sisters to remind us and sharpen us and strengthen us that this is the King's kingdom that we're trying to get to, not our own. We're not trying to build up any treasures here. Our treasures are not here. We're only here temporarily. We're in the world, but we're not of the world. Our treasure, we're building it up in the kingdom of Elohim. That's what we should be focusing on. This assembly and this property, we want a community of like-minded believers who believe that the entire Bible is true and applicable to their lives today. Every aspect of it, from Genesis to Revelation. We know that Messiah Yeshua is read about. He said for himself that Moshe wrote about me. Moshe's books are the first 5 books, starting with Genesis. So we know that Yeshua is in the entire Bible as we know it. We want fellowship and family with people that want to be here, that are trying to live their best and righteous life, to carry out the commands as Messiah Yeshua has commanded us, so that we can prepare for what's coming. The end times are coming, people. We have to get ready, and we're not. I'm not. We still have time to get ready. Tribulation is on its way. It's time that we start preparing for that now. Does this mean that all of our individual beliefs will line up with one another exactly? Not at all. We have people here that use the Father's name as Yahovah or Yahuwah or Yahweh. We're not going to judge or condemn anybody on that. You recognize that the Father does have a name, and that's not a title. It's a personal relationship. I commend people for using the Father's name. I promote it. Do we line up on our calendar beliefs? No. That's okay. We all understand that the Father has appointed times, and we're doing our best to keep it. When Yeshua returns, all of this stuff is going to be lined out. So some of these things, you can believe, that we're on the wrong calendar, and that's okay. But let us come and reason and reckon the Scriptures together. We need to stop the division. We need to remain humble. It's okay if our opinions are different, if we have different understanding. As mature adults, we should be able to sit down and have a conversation with one another to try and understand the perspective that the other person's coming from. Jumping to conclusions without the context and without cause, it is going to cause damage to the body, such as division. At one point, our entire lives, we thought we had it mapped out. We thought we had the truth. And then our eyes were open. We found out how little we actually knew. Sitting down and having a conversation with a brother or sister on how they keep the calendar. It doesn't have to be out of disrespect. Be out of humility and love, trying to understand where they're coming from. Maybe that would give us a better understanding. We need to remain humble and remember, we were once in the church. And when we came out of that, we have to throw everything out. Everything. Because the paradigm shifted. If that's not occurred yet, we ask that you do that. You throw out everything at the church. Leave your baggage at the gate. Let us come and reason and reckon the Scriptures together. Reckon the Word. Let that be our foundation. All these other things, we can do without. You got to take care of your actions first. So we need to start adjusting our actions accordingly and righteously. If we have an issue with a brother, we're supposed to go to that brother or sister first. Do not let the sun set on our anger or on our offense. We need to address it and get it corrected. We're following the Matthew 18 principle here in verses 15 to 17. If resolution's not obtained, then we get 2 or 3 more brothers and we go to that brother. And if that doesn't work, then we bring it before the assembly. And if there's no understanding after that, then the person would be asked to leave the assembly, cast out. There's a method to the madness here. Breaking off fellowship with the assembly without following this principle is unfair to the remainder of the assembly. And it goes against our biblical practices and standards that we all claim to be following. We've had people that have shown up once here and then fallen off the face of the planet and not given an explanation of why they haven't returned. It's unfair. If you disagree with something, hey, that's okay. Let me know, or let somebody know. We're trying to build a family here. We're trying to build a community of brothers and sisters that can be humble enough to love one another at all costs. We need to get rid of the Lashon Hara, the gossip. We don't need to be talking about another brother or sister in a disparaging way to another brother or sister. This is what your spouse is for. That's why you're a chad. Maybe your spouse can reason with you and provide you some insight or some guidance on how to address an offense. If someone is coming to you with Lashon Hara, you need to squash it right then and there. Say, look, you got an offense. You would take it up with your brother. Don't come to me with this. I ain't trying to have it. Remind your brother or sister of that they need to go to them first. Lashon Hara could be like a wildfire. It only takes one tiny spark to start this fire. If the conditions are correct in the climate, in the season, that tiny little spark can turn into an inferno. And James chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, I'm going to read it for you because it speaks just of this. So too the tongue is a little member, yet boasts greatly. See how a little fire kindles a great forest. And the tongue is a fire, The world of unrighteousness. Among our members the tongue is set, the one defiling the entire body, and setting on the fire the wheel of life, and it's set on fire by Gehenna. Did you know that bad news, bad things, bad information spreads 10 times faster than good? Did you know that people will remember the one bad thing and forget the 99 good things that you did? Human nature. We have the choice to make. We can live by this and continue to do this, or we can live a righteous lifestyle. We're called to righteousness. We're called to obedience. We need to get rid of the gossip. Once the verbal darts are thrown, once you start talking about somebody, if you're speaking out of anger or disappointment or anything like that, if it's not words of life or encouragement and uplifting, it can be character assassination. People's opinion, it shouldn't change. People should remain adults, but our fleshly nature, opinions can be changed and altered by, well, it could be a mob mentality. It's by no means biblical or righteous to do this, and we have no place for it. If you talk about someone, be sure that you're building them up. Be sure that you're uplifting and speaking life, speaking prayer requests. One thing that we fail to do, in my opinion, is we fail to pray for one another more. We need to be doing more of that. We need to be leading more of a righteous lifestyle. Things of that nature. These are the things that we need to be speaking. I've recently been accused of conducting this offense of Lashon Hara. So I come before the assembly at this time. And if I have spoken Lashon Hara against anybody in the assembly, here present or listening online, or that will listen to this in the future, I seek your forgiveness. I am a fleshly man. I am not above making mistakes. I've been wrong before, and I've had to seek forgiveness from the assembly before, and I'll do it again. I'll do it every time that I have an offense. I'm humble enough to recognize that I'm just a man. I'm prone to make mistakes. So if I have wronged any of you, I seek your forgiveness. I earnestly seek your forgiveness, all of you. This assembly, if this is not what you're seeking, that's okay. People are free to come and go as they wish. Like I said, we've had people that have been here one time, one and done and gone, and we haven't heard from them again. It's hard because we're trying to build a family, and when we receive people in, we're taking people in, and they just kind of disappear, and they don't want to respond and talk to you, and it's heartbreaking. It's very, very heartbreaking. We're trying to do something here that our other assemblies have only spoke of. We're trying to build a close-knit community that can rely upon one another, that will be there for one another. Before the stuff hits the fan, this is our practice. Before that train wreck that's heading right toward us, before it gets here, this is our practice. If we need to build the faith, we need to build the trust, we need to build the fellowship, we need to build the camaraderie with one another before it hits the fan, because when it hits the fan, then it's too late. When it hits the fan, if I can't trust you, and I can't believe in you, and I can't rely upon you, we're going to have a hard time associating. And that's just from me personally. Trust is a very valuable thing. Fellowship, family is a very valuable thing. I consider all of you closer family than my own blood family. And I'm still really close with my blood family, even though that they don't fall for it. I choose to be out here. The Father has selected me to be out here. This is where the Father will have me. This is where I'll be. So we're trying to build these relationships now that is going to assist us. Because I tell you, there's a freight train that's coming towards us. And we need to spend the rest of the time that we have preparing for it. We read the prophecies. We know the end times are near. They're getting closer and closer every day. This isn't the time to divide. This is the time to come together. Like I said, build that trust. Like it or not, they're here. They're coming. Prepared or not, they're still coming. So what are we going to choose to do? I can't make anybody's choice for them. I can only speak for myself and myself alone. I can't make anybody choose. We love you. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here serving our Father. We wouldn't open up the property to like-minded brothers and sisters to come in. We're doing our best to be a light to the nations. Like I said, at times we're going to fail. We're going to falter. That's okay. That's what forgiveness is for. That's what love is for. That's what we're here to do. Is we're here to build that. Let's change our focus and try to do that. There's a phrase out there. You can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink it. So we want you to choose the living water. Choose the righteous path. That's what we all should be working towards. I failed miserably multiple times. But I get back up and I ask Father, please guide me. Please put people in my life to help me, to lead me down this path, Father. I'm not leading this, you are. So have your people help me. Help me sharpen myself, or help them sharpen me, or me sharpen them. However it's going to be. I told him in 2014, use me as you will. Whatever you will have me do, Father, I will do. Period. I never assumed and never thought that it would be in this capacity. Never. Here I am. Whatever he has me to do, I'm going to do. So it's up to us as individuals what we choose to do. We choose to love one another. We choose our righteousness. We choose to be obedient. If we didn't make that choice, we wouldn't be here today.
for all you've done and all you'll do.
So, we miss Hannah too. So, before we leave, before we break for lunch, we'll have the Aaronic blessing. Yibrekah Yahweh v'yishmereka, Yair Yahweh panav elecha v'yikuneka, Yisa Yahweh panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you for coming. Let us have lunch now. Let us eat.